The hallway outside Judge Judy's courtroom trembled with whispers as a blind 70-year-old woman felt for the bench, her hand shaking, her dignity hanging by a thread. Behind her stood her son, arms crossed, eyes cold, already defending what he had done. But when the doors opened and Judge Judy looked up, something in her expression changed, and the moment the truth began to unfold, the entire courtroom forgot how to breathe. But before we get into it, tell me, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments and hit subscribe for more shocking courtroom moments. The son leans back in his chair as though the courtroom was built for him, his arms casually draped, his chin lifted just enough to signal superiority. He does not glance at his mother beside him, as if acknowledging her would cost him something he is unwilling to spend. The camera settles on the mother first. A blind 70-year-old woman, her fragile hands reaching for the edge of the defendant's table, feeling for space that should have felt familiar but does not. Not anymore. The soft tap of her cane echoes in the quiet, each sound a reminder that she moves through darkness while the world around her pretends not to notice. The son does not help her sit. He barely shifts his foot to make room, eyes fixed on Judge Judy with a smirk that seems practiced, almost rehearsed, a smile worn like armor. Judge Judy watches him for a long, unreadable moment. Her voice slices through the stillness. "Why is your mother standing?" The son shrugs, an effortless, dismissive roll of his shoulders that sends a ripple of discomfort through the room. "I thought she was fine." The mother lowers herself into the chair alone, her movements slow, careful, and heartbreakingly measured. She does not complain. She does not look at him. She simply folds her hands on her lap as if bracing for impact. The camera shifts to the audience, a row of widened eyes, quiet breaths, silent shock. Even the bailiff's posture tightens. Judge Judy leans forward. "You did not think she might need assistance? She is blind." His smirk flickers, but only for a moment. "She manages," he says, tapping his fingers on the desk. "She always exaggerates things." The mother lifts her face toward the sound of his voice. "I do not exaggerate," she whispers. Her tone is soft, but it travels like a tremor, the kind that signals a deeper earthquake beneath. Judge Judy turns to her. "Ma'am, how did you arrive today?" "I took a rideshare," she says. "He said he was too busy." The son scoffs under his breath and Judy's eyes snap back to him. "You find that amusing?" "No," he answers quickly, though the corner of his mouth betrays him. The lights in the room feel harsher now, revealing things the son seems desperate to hide. His leg bounces, his fingers twitch. Confidence, once so effortless, begins to read as performance. Judy studies him the way a surgeon studies an X-ray, looking for fractures hidden under bravado. "Let me begin very simply," she says. "Why is your mother suing you?" "She is dramatic," he replies. "She left my house on her own. Now she wants money." The mother's hands tighten over her cane. Judy raises a brow, her tone flattening into something sharper. "Is that your story?" "It is the truth," he says. Silence thickens, dense, waiting, electric. Then Judy asks one quiet question, delivered like a scalpel. "Then why does your timeline not match hers?" The smirk disappears. The son's mouth opens to answer, but nothing comes out. The first fracture in his perfect confidence has finally appeared. Her voice is barely more than breath, yet it steals the entire room. Every ear leans toward her, not out of curiosity, but out of something deeper, the instinct to protect what looks already broken. The camera glides slowly to the mother, catching the delicate tremor in her fingers as she folds them over each other. Her blindness does not diminish her presence. Instead, it amplifies it. The way her chin lifts, unsure of where to aim her gaze, tells the story even before her words do. Judge Judy softens her tone by a fraction. "Ma'am, tell me what happened." The mother swallows. "I lived with my son," she begins, her hands tightening on her cane. "Because I cannot see and I get confused easily when I try to move around alone." The son rolls his eyes so dramatically the audience shifts, as though the motion sends a cold wave across the room. She continues, unaware or unwilling to acknowledge his irritation. "I paid my share, groceries, utilities. I did not want to be a burden. Her voice shakes, but her dignity never slips. I cleaned the house as best as I could, she says. I cooked when I could. I stayed in my room when they had guests. I tried not to be in the way. The camera cuts to the son, arms crossed, foot tapping, as if all of this is an inconvenience to him. Judge Judy notices. Sit still, she snaps. Show some respect. He freezes, jaw tight. The mother exhales, shakily. One day, he told me I had to leave, that I was slowing down his life. She pauses, remembering. He said I made things too complicated. Judy leans forward, eyes narrowing. And did he give you notice? Any written communication? Anything at all? The mother shakes her head gently. No, Your Honor. He told me after dinner, and by morning, my things were at the door. A soft murmur runs through the courtroom, the kind of sound people make when witnessing something quietly cruel. Judge Judy's eyes shift, now sharp with purpose. Where did you go? The mother takes a slow breath, steadying herself. A neighbor let me sleep on her couch. I did not want to call the police. I just hoped he would calm down and let me come home. Her lip trembles, not from fear, but from the profound humiliation of having to say these words aloud. The son scoffs. She makes it sound worse. Judy raises a finger like a warning blade. Do not interrupt her. The mother bows her head, gathering courage from silence. I only want my things back, and what I paid. I never wanted to fight him. Her voice breaks slightly, a fracture, not a collapse. The camera shifts back to the son, whose confidence now flickers like a light about to burn out. Judge Judy turns to him slowly, deliberately, letting the weight of the mother's truth settle first. Is that true? She asks, her voice low, dangerous. The room holds its breath as the son prepares to answer, and his face says he has no idea what to say. He opens his mouth with the confidence of a man who believes the room is already on his side. But the very first sentence he speaks betrays him. It bends, it contradicts, and the courtroom feels it immediately. The son clears his throat, straightens his shoulders, and finally speaks as though delivering a rehearsed monologue. First of all, he says, she chose to leave. She likes drama. That is her thing. A wave of discomfort rolls through the audience, not because of the words, but because of how casually he says them, like he is describing weather, not the eviction of a blind woman. Judge Judy narrows her eyes. Drama? She is 70 years old and blind. What drama could she possibly be seeking? He shrugs, palms up. She just gets emotional, and she exaggerates everything. She said she was uncomfortable, so I told her maybe she should go stay somewhere else to cool down. The mother turns her head toward the sound of his voice, her brow furrowed. That is not what happened, she murmurs. Judy lifts a hand gently, reassuring her. I heard your testimony, she says, before slicing her gaze back to the son. Now let us hear his. The son leans forward, eager to reclaim the narrative. She left voluntarily. She packed her stuff. Stop. Judy's voice cuts like a blade. 5 minutes ago you said you put her things by the door. Now she packed her things herself. His mouth opens, closes, opens again. A silent gasp ripples through the gallery. He tries again. Well, she started packing after I suggested. No. Judy shakes her head slowly. Words matter in a courtroom. You either put her things outside, or she did it herself. Which is it? His confidence sputters. She helped. She took some things out, but I was just trying to make it easier for her. The mother's shoulders stiffen, not from fear, but from the sting of hearing him rewrite the memory in real time. Judy tilts her head slightly, studying him the way a scientist studies a specimen under light. Let me ask you something, she says quietly. If she left on her own, why did she leave crying? He blinks, caught off guard. She gets emotional, that is what I said. You said she left on her own. Judy's voice is soft, almost gentle, yet deadly. Most people do not cry when doing something they want to do. His jaw tightens. His fingers tap the table, faster now, a subtle confession of panic. The judge shifts her attention. Your mother said you gave her no notice, no warning, no written communication. She said she woke up and her belongings were already outside. And I say she knew, he snaps. She knew it was time for her to move on. She just wants to make me look bad. The mother's lips part, wounded. Judy notices. The audience notices. The son does not. He inhales sharply. Besides, he adds, we had an agreement in writing. She knew the rules of staying in my house. The room freezes. Judge Judy straightens. An agreement in writing? She repeats, her tone chilling. He nods quickly. Yes, a written agreement. Judy steeples her fingers. Then bring me the document, she says. And the son, so confident seconds ago, suddenly cannot move. He pats one pocket, then another, each movement faster, more frantic, more revealing. The document he bragged about minutes ago has suddenly vanished. The son's hands flutter across the table like nervous birds, tapping, sorting, pretending. A stack of folded papers, a crumpled receipt, an envelope that clearly contains nothing. He checks them all anyway. The courtroom watches in an uncomfortable silence, the tension thickening like air before a storm. Judge Judy's gaze sharpens. You have 30 seconds, she says, to show me the written agreement you claim exists. His breathing picks up. Not loud, but audible. The mother can hear it. She turns her face toward the sound, her lips trembling, sensing the unraveling she once prayed would never happen. I had it, the son insists. It was right here. My girlfriend put it in this folder. Judy raises a brow, unimpressed. Your girlfriend is not on trial. You are. He swallows hard. I am telling you, she must have misplaced it. The judge snaps her fingers once, a sharp, precise sound that cuts through his excuses like a blade. Stop talking, just find it. He digs again, now pulling out papers with movements too forceful to be confident. A utility bill, a fast food coupon, a notice from his employer, but no signed agreement, no contract, nothing that resembles what he promised. The courtroom murmurs, a soft wave of disbelief and recognition. People know this pattern. The louder the lie, the faster it collapses. Judge Judy leans back in her chair, studying him with the quiet patience of someone who has watched arrogance decay 1,000 times. So, she says coolly, you produced everything except the one document that would help your case. His jaw twitches. I am telling you, I had it. She moved things around or... Judy cuts him off. She is blind. The words land with the weight of a gavel. The audience reacts. The mother exhales, a sound halfway between relief and heartbreak. The son tries again. Maybe it fell out in the car, or maybe it is at home. I had a lot going on. I cannot keep track of everything. You kept track of kicking your mother out, Judy replies. You kept track of placing her belongings outside. You kept track of taking her off utility accounts, but you cannot keep track of a single sheet of paper? His face reddens. His confidence fractures further, cracking like thin ice under weight. And let us talk about your timeline, she adds. Your story changes every time I ask a question. You realize that, yes? He opens his mouth, but no defense comes. Behind him, the mother's hands grip her cane, knuckles pale. She says nothing. She does not need to. Silence is telling the story for her. Judy turns to her clerk. Bring me the file the plaintiff submitted. The son's head snaps up. What file? The mother lifts her chin slightly, aware she cannot see the room, but knowing she has felt this moment coming. Judy places the mother's file on the desk, tapping it once. Perhaps, she says softly, your mother kept better records than you did. The file hits Judge Judy's desk with a dull, heavy thud, and the son flinches as though the truth inside it could bruise him. Judge Judy opens the mother's file with the same care a surgeon gives to an exposed artery. Each page turned is deliberate, unhurried, the soft rustle loud enough to make the son twitch in his seat. She glances at him once. Do not speak until I ask you to. The camera catches the way his knee bounces uncontrollably under the table, the first unmistakable tremor of a man losing control of the story he thought he owned. Judy lifts a page. This, she says, is a change of address confirmation. dated 6 weeks before you claim she left voluntarily. The son stiffens. That is not what it looks like. I only changed it temporarily. Temporarily, Judy echoes, her voice dangerously even. You redirected her mail to your address, without telling her, correct? He swallows. Hard. I thought it would be easier for me to manage things. For you, she repeats. Not a question. A dissection. She holds up another document, a utilities transfer authorization, his signature unmistakable. And this one? You removed her name and put yours alone. Did she authorize that? His face reddens, a slow blooming of panic under the fluorescent lights. She said I could handle bills. The mother's voice, soft but steady, breaks through the rising tension. I did not say that, she whispers. I only asked you to read them to me. The room reacts, a collective exhale of disbelief. The son shifts violently in his chair. She does not remember conversations correctly. Judy slams the file shut. The sound echoes like a gavel. Enough. He stops mid-sentence, breath caught like he has run into a wall. Judy's voice lowers, almost gentle, which somehow makes it sharper. You took control of her mail, her accounts, her address, and then you put her out of the home she helped maintain. He opens his mouth, but nothing coherent forms. Emotion and panic collide in his throat, tripping over each other, failing to assemble into excuses. Judy leans forward. Why? She asks. Would a son need this level of control over his blind mother unless he was hiding something? The son's eyes dart. Left, right, anywhere but toward the mother whose face is turned toward the sound of his unraveling. I was just trying to help, he mumbles. No, Judy says quietly. You were trying to manage her. A pause. And you were hoping she would stay quiet about it. The son sinks a little lower in his chair, arrogance deflating into something smaller, more fragile, more exposed. The mother presses a hand against her heart, as though steadying herself against the truth finally spoken aloud. Judy turns the file back toward the clerk. We are not finished. She focuses on the son with razor precision. Tell me, she says, what exactly were you planning to do with her belongings? His face drains of color, the unraveling now unmistakable. He tries to speak, but the words collide in his throat, panic turning his voice into fragments. For the first time, the son looks smaller than the truth surrounding him. The courtroom feels different now, heavier, denser, like every molecule of air has absorbed the weight of what has just been revealed. Judge Judy remains perfectly still, her silence as sharp as any accusation. She watches the son the way one watches a structure about to collapse, not with surprise but with inevitability. I asked you a question, she says quietly. What did you intend to do with your mother's belongings? The son wipes his palms on his pants, a subtle reveal of sweat that betrays his unraveling composure. I was going to sort them, donate some, store some. His voice cracks. Sell a few things, maybe. Sell? Judy repeats, her expression hardening. The mother's head turns toward the sound of that word, her lips parting, breath hitching. She grips her cane as though anchoring herself to something that will not betray her. What exactly, Judy asks, leaning forward, gave you the right to sell anything belonging to a woman who trusted you to care for her? He sputters. She did not need all that stuff. I was doing her a favor. The room reacts, a wave of gasps cutting him off. Judy's eyebrows lift, the warning clear. Do not insult this courtroom with that kind of justification, not today. The son's breathing quickens, a tremor runs through his fingers. He shifts in his chair, trying to reclaim the confidence that once came so easily. But it does not return. Arrogance has abandoned him. The mother lifts her hand slightly, as if reaching for a sound she needs to confirm. All my things, she whispers, voice trembling. The pictures, my sewing machine, my wedding dress. He looks away, jaw clenching. Her trembling intensifies. Those were memories, only memories. I cannot. Her voice breaks softly. I cannot see anything anymore. Those were all I had. The room falls into a breathtaking silence, the kind that is not empty but full of judgment, full of empathy, full of the unspoken acknowledgement that something sacred has been violated. Judy's face softens just enough to show humanity beneath authority. "This is not about clutter," she says, turning to the son. "This is about dignity. Hers, not yours." He finally snaps. "She never appreciates anything I do. She is impossible to live with. She complains. She moves things. She slows everything down." Judy lifts her hand sharply. "Say it plainly," she orders. "Say the truth you have been avoiding." The son glares at the desk, breathing ragged. "She was in my way." The mother's shoulders fold inward, not dramatically, not loudly, just enough to reveal the quiet devastation of hearing your place in someone's life reduced to an inconvenience. Judy's voice drops to a whisper that somehow feels louder than any shout. "Repeat it." His eyes snap to hers. "What? Why?" "Because the truth is a mirror," she says, "and I want you to see yourself in it." His lips tremble. "She was in my way." A heartbeat passes, then another. Judy sits back. "We are nowhere near done." She signals to the clerk. "Prepare the next piece of evidence," she says, "and bring the audio file." The son freezes, because he knows exactly which recording she means. His breathing comes uneven now, short, frantic pulls of air that make the courtroom feel smaller around him. The arrogance he wore like armor is slipping, piece by brittle piece. The clerk crosses the room and hands Judge Judy a small device connected to the sound system. The son's eyes follow it the way prey watches a trap being set, too late to run, too terrified to stay still. Judy nods to the clerk. "Play it." A soft click, then static, and then a voice, the mother's voice, thin, trembling, recorded in a moment when she believed no one else could hear her fear. "Please, please call me back," the recording says. "I do not know what to do. I am outside. I cannot find my way. I just want to come home." The son's shoulders jerk as though the words strike him physically. The audience goes silent, not the typical courtroom hush, but a suffocating, breath-stilling silence that feels like judgment itself. The mother bows her head, unable to see the reactions, but feeling them in every shift of air. Judy lets the recording play unbroken. "I am sorry if I upset you. I did not mean to. Please, I am scared." The son squeezes his eyes shut. When the audio stops, Judy leans forward, elbows on the desk, voice cold enough to freeze the room. "That," she says, "is not a woman who left voluntarily." He stammers. She left the house upset, and she did not want—" "Do not finish that sentence," Judy warns, "because whatever comes next will be a lie." He grips the edges of the table, knuckles whitening. "You do not understand what it is like. She complains about everything. I cannot do anything right. I needed space." "Space," Judy repeats. "You needed space so badly that you left your blind mother alone in the dark with no way to return home." The mother inhales sharply, shaking. He looks at her, actually looks at her, for the first time since the hearing began. But she does not lift her face. She holds her cane like it is the only thing keeping her upright. Judy picks up the mother's bank statements next. "Let us talk about these withdrawals," she says. "Multiple ATM transactions in your neighborhood, purchases for electronics, restaurant charges, all from her account. Did she authorize those?" "Yes," he blurts too quickly. She gifted me money. She said I deserved it for helping her." The mother's voice rises gently, barely above a whisper. "I did not say that." His head snaps toward her. "She does not remember. That is what I am trying to say. She mixes up conversations. She imagines things." Judy raises a finger. "No, she does not imagine things. You do." The son's facade fractures further, as if a pressure inside him is pushing outward, cracking him from within. The mother's next words finish the damage. "I only gave him money because I thought it would make him visit me more. That maybe he would sit with me a while. I did not know I was paying him to stay." The gallery gasps. Even the bailiff's steady posture falters. Judy closes the file slowly, the soft click of the cover echoing like a verdict delivered too soon. She turns to the clerk again. "Bring in the girlfriend," she says. "We need to clear up a few contradictions." The son's face drains. because the person he blamed earlier is now the one person who can bury him completely. A shaky, breaking voice fills the courtroom, and it is not the one anyone expected to hear again. The room goes still, as if every heartbeat pauses to listen. The clerk presses play, a soft crackle of static. Then the voicemail begins. "Hi, it is me." The mother's voice trembles through the speakers, thinner than tissue, frail enough to tear under the weight of fear. "I am outside. I do not know where you are. I knocked. I called your name. I cannot see anything." The audio magnifies the silence in the courtroom until it feels like the air itself is holding its breath. "I am sorry," the recording continues, her words crumbling under their own weight. "I did not mean to upset you. Please open the door. I only need a little help. I just need to come inside." The son squeezes his eyes shut as if he could unhear what the room has already absorbed. The audience shifts, chairs creaking, bodies leaning, hearts breaking. Even the bailiff, steady as a mountain in every case, looks down at the floor. "And if you do not want me there anymore, please just tell me, but do not leave me here. It is cold, and I cannot find the steps." A soft gasp escapes someone in the gallery. Another wipes a tear. The sound of the mother's pleading transforms the courtroom from a place of procedure into a place of reckoning. When the recording ends, the silence is devastating, not empty, but overflowing with judgment. Judge Judy does not move. She sits with her hands folded, staring at the son with an expression so controlled it borders on furious calm. "That," she says slowly, "is not a woman who left voluntarily. That is abandonment." The son fumbles for words, his voice cracking under the weight of his own choices. She left the house upset. She said she needed—" "Do not finish," Judy warns. "We have heard the truth in her voice, not yours." The mother tilts her face toward the sound of the judge's voice, but it is the son's breathing she listens for. The ragged, guilt-saturated breaths of a man discovering he is no longer protected by his own narrative. Judy lifts the phone the voicemail came from. "Your mother called you 6 times that night," she says. "You answered none of them." The son's face collapses into a grimace of defensiveness and fear. "I was tired. I needed a break." Judy's reply is nearly a whisper. "You needed distance. She needed safety. Only one of you was entitled to it." The mother presses a trembling hand to her chest, the memory raw even now. Judy leans back. "We have reached the point where evidence will either clear you or destroy you." The clerk opens the side door. Footsteps echo. He looks up, and dread drenches his expression. The girlfriend steps inside, eyes lowered, carrying a truth she can no longer protect. Her arrival signals the moment everything tilts. She steps into the room with her hands clasped, eyes lowered, moving like someone walking toward a truth she can no longer outrun. The son stiffens. He already knows her presence is not salvation, it is exposure. The girlfriend stops beside the witness stand, shoulders tight, breath unsteady. The camera lingers on her face, not defiant, not hostile, just frightened. Frightened of the truth she hid, frightened of the man she hid it for. Judge Judy gestures calmly. "State your name, please." Her voice wavers. "My name is Melissa." The son sits up straighter, trying to regain control. "It is fine," he mutters. "Just tell her what happened. Tell her you lost the paper. Tell her—" Judy lifts a hand sharply. "Do not coach her, not here." Melissa's lips tremble. I did not lose anything." The son's jaw snaps shut. A ripple goes through the room, the gallery sensing a fault line cracking open beneath the son's chair. Judy leans forward, her tone precise. "You are saying the written agreement he referenced never existed?" Melissa hesitates, looks at the mother, then at the floor. Finally, she exhales. "No, it never existed. He told me to say that if anyone asked." The son explodes. "What are you doing?" His voice echoes, desperate, cracking at the edges. The bailiff takes a step forward, a silent warning. Judy doesn't flinch. "So he asked you to lie," she says. "Why?" Melissa swallows hard. "He said he needed to make himself look more responsible, for the court, for everyone." A painful silence follows, not dramatic, but deeply human, the kind that reveals regret in its purest form. The mother turns her face toward Melissa, her expression unreadable, but her breath unsteady. It is the breath of someone reliving a wound they tried to forget. Judy lifts a page from the mother's file. "This shows a transfer of her utilities and mail to your house," she says. "Did you know about that?" Melissa nods slowly. "He told me it was temporary. He said she was getting clingy, that she needed to learn to be more independent." The mother stiffens, a small, involuntary flinch of pain. "And," Judy says, "the night she was removed from the house, tell me what happened." Melissa closes her eyes. Her voice lowers to a whisper. "He told her she had to leave. He said if she refused, he would call the police." She pauses, breath catching. "And he told me to lock the door behind her." The son slams a fist lightly against the table. "She is lying. She is just mad because we argued last week." Judy's stare freezes him mid-outburst. "You do not get to rewrite her truth, not anymore." Melissa wipes tears from her cheek. "I regret it, every part of it." The courtroom is silent except for her quiet breaths. Judy folds her hands. "What made you come forward today?" Melissa looks at the mother. "She is blind," she whispers, "and she still apologized in that voicemail. I could not live with myself after hearing it." The son's face drains, pale, frantic, cornered. Melissa inhales slowly, gathering courage for one final blow. "Your Honor, there is something else I need to tell you, something he did not want anyone to know about that night." Her next words land like heavy stones dropped into the center of the room, and the ripples reach every corner of the courtroom. Even the son stops breathing. Melissa stands frozen, hands trembling as though the truth itself burns through her palms. The son leans forward, eyes wide, no longer angry, just afraid. The mother stays very still, sensing the shift in energy with a heightened awareness born from living in darkness. Judge Judy's voice is soft, controlled, unnervingly calm. "Take your time," she says. "What happened after she stepped outside?" Melissa closes her eyes. "When she walked out, he told me to turn off the porch light." The courtroom gasps, a wave of disbelief that hits and recedes, leaving a dense silence behind. The mother inhales sharply, her fingers curling tighter around her cane. The son shakes his head violently. "She is exaggerating. She knows I did not—" "Let her finish," Judy orders, the command slicing through his protest. Melissa continues, voice quivering. "He said if we kept the lights on, she would try to find her way back inside. He said she needed to learn a lesson." The mother's breath stutters, the smallest sound, but devastating. Melissa swallows hard. "I did not want to. I swear, I did not. But he grabbed the switch himself when I hesitated." Her gaze falls to the floor. "The entire porch went dark, and she reached for the railing, but her hand missed because she could not see where anything was anymore." Judge Judy blinks slowly, as if grounding herself in restraint. "And then?" she asks. Melissa looks directly at her, a moment of raw honesty. "He told me to lock the door." Another ripple of horrified whispers. The son sinks into his chair as though gravity itself has turned against him. Judy's tone hardens. "Did she have her phone?" "Yes," Melissa says. "But he kept turning the volume down every time it rang. He refused to answer. He laughed and said she cries at everything." The son slams his hand on the table. "That is a lie." But the room no longer bends toward his voice. It bends toward hers, toward truth. Melissa's voice cracks. She stood outside for almost 40 minutes. She called him. She knocked. She begged. The mother lifts a shaking hand to her mouth, the memory crashing back, uninvited and overwhelming. Melissa wipes tears from her cheeks. "She asked me once if I thought he would ever let her back inside. I said I did not know, because I did not." The entire courtroom feels suspended in a single breath. Judge Judy exhales slowly, almost painfully. "Is there anything else you want to tell this court?" Melissa nods. Her final confession is barely above a whisper, yet it detonates in the room like truth finally freed. He planned to put her things on the curb the next morning. He said she would figure something out. He said she always does. The son's face drains to white. Judy turns her head to him, voice like ice cracking. "Stand up," she says. "Because after what I just heard, you and I are going to have a very different conversation." For the first time since the hearing began, he does not speak. Not because he refuses to, but because something inside him has finally cracked. He stands slowly, as Judge Judy ordered, his legs unsteady, his breath shallow. The confidence he wielded like a weapon now hangs limp at his sides, useless, exposed. The courtroom is a still ocean. Nothing moves except the faint tremble in his jaw. Judy lets the silence stretch, not cruelly, but with purpose. Silence in this room is where truth is forced to live. "Look at your mother," she says softly. He does not. He keeps his eyes fixed on the desk, as though the grain in the wood might swallow him whole. "Look at your mother." Slowly, painfully, he turns. The mother lifts her face toward him, not seeing him, but feeling the shift in the air, the emotional temperature that says he is breaking, finally breaking. Her expression is not anger, it is not revenge, it is something quieter, heavier, a grief that has waited too long to be heard. Judy folds her hands. "You tell me you were overwhelmed," she says, "that you needed space, that she was in your way." He swallows, throat tight. I did not know what else to do." "Yes," Judy says. "You did. You could have asked for help. You could have communicated. Instead, you chose cruelty dressed as convenience." His shoulders collapse inward, a physical manifestation of guilt pressing down like a weight too long ignored. Melissa watches from the side, tears streaking her face, remorse, guilt, and relief mingling in equal measure. Judy leans forward. "You let a blind 70-year-old woman stand outside in the dark. You ignored her calls. You locked the door. You laughed." He covers his face with both hands. "No, I was stupid. I was angry. I just wanted—" "What?" Judy's voice softens, but not kindly. "To feel in control? To feel powerful? To feel free of responsibility?" His hands drop. His eyes shine with the wetness of a truth he can no longer contain. "I felt trapped," he whispers. "I felt like my life stopped when she moved in. I felt like everything became about her." The mother's lips part, pain rippling across her features. "So, you punished her for needing you?" Judy asks. Her tone is not sharp now. It is something worse. Disappointment. He chokes on his answer. "I did not want to hurt her. I just wanted to live my life. I thought she would be better off without me." The mother's next words cut through him like a blade made of memory. "I never wanted to stop your life," she whispers. "I only ever wanted to be part of it." His knees buckle slightly at the sound of a mother's love colliding with a son's fear. Judy watches him closely. "We are done with excuses," she says. "Now we deal with consequences." He nods, defeated. But Judy is not looking at him anymore. She turns to the mother. "Ma'am," she says gently, "did you know your son felt this way about you?" The mother hesitates, then answers with quiet devastation, "Yes, I knew, and I was going to leave him the house anyway." The courtroom freezes. The son's breath stops. Judy's eyes widen, and the mother adds with heartbreaking clarity, "I'm not sure I will anymore." Her revelation hangs in the air like a suspended tear, one small drop capable of altering the entire shape of the room when it falls. And the son, once unshakable, looks as though the floor beneath him has just disappeared. Judge Judy does not speak right away. She lets the weight of the mother's confession settle into the silence, lets it carve into the son's shrinking posture, lets it breathe long enough for the courtroom to comprehend its magnitude. The mother folds her hands tightly on her lap, fingertips trembling. "I was going to leave him the house," she repeats softly, as if the echo alone might help her understand how everything went so wrong. "I thought it would make his life easier. I wanted to give him something solid, something mine." The son wipes at his face, ashamed, confused. and suddenly exposed in a way no courtroom testimony ever prepared him for. He sinks back down into his seat as though gravity has doubled its pull. Judge Judy leans forward, elbows on the bench, her tone shifting, not gentler but more deliberate. "Ma'am," she says, "you do not owe anyone your home, or your peace, not even your son." The mother nods slowly, her milky eyes blinking as emotion clouds the edges of her composure. "I know," she whispers. "I am starting to understand that." The camera shifts to the son, hunched, small, shrinking under truths he never expected to face. His bravado evaporated long ago, replaced now by a hollow remorse that flickers across his features in uneven waves. Judy turns to him. "The consequences you face today are not just legal," she says firmly. "They are moral, emotional, personal." She places a hand on the stack of documents, and they begin with restitution. He nods weakly, eyes downcast. "You will return every one of her belongings," she continues, "and anything missing, damaged, or sold will be replaced at your expense." He nods again. "You will reimburse her for the nights she was forced to sleep elsewhere," she adds, her voice sharpening, "and for any emotional and logistical harm caused by your actions." This time he opens his mouth, not to argue, but to plead. I will," he says. "I will do whatever she wants, I swear." The mother shifts slightly, her voice quiet but steady. "I do not want revenge," she says. "I want dignity, and I want him to understand what he did." A murmur of empathy ripples through the audience. Judy softens, just enough to let humanity show beneath the authority. "You are entitled to that," she says, "and he will understand, because I am not finished." The son looks up, startled. "Not finished?" "No," Judy replies, folding her hands. "There is behavior in your testimony that raises concerns far beyond this courtroom. You redirected her mail. You transferred her utilities. You exercised control over her finances." He swallows hard, fear returning with a vengeance. The judge's gaze sharpens. "I have a responsibility to ensure that does not continue." She turns to the clerk. "Prepare the documents," she says. "There is another action this court must take, one your son is not going to like." He lifts his eyes slowly, as though bracing for a blow he knows he deserves, not from Judge Judy, but from the truth he has spent years trying not to face. The courtroom feels quieter now, not because sound has vanished, but because something heavier has taken its place: accountability. Judge Judy sits straighter, her expression shifting into a mode the courtroom recognizes, not anger, not disappointment, but something deeper. A moral stillness, the kind that precedes truth with no escape route. "Let us be clear," she begins, her voice steady as stone. "This is not simply about money or belongings. This is about dignity, respect, and responsibility, all of which you neglected." The son swallows hard, tears pooling at the corners of his eyes. The earlier panic has settled into a thick, painful remorse that forces him to sit uncomfortably in the truth of who he has become. "You treated your mother," Judy continues, "as though her blindness was an inconvenience, as though her existence required justification." He winces, because the words find their mark. The mother sits perfectly still, her fingers laced together, her chin slightly lifted toward the judge's voice. Though she cannot see the courtroom, she can feel every shift in tone, every tremor in her son's breath. Melissa watches from the witness stand, guilt etched into her expression. Her involvement was cowardly, but her honesty today is brave. Judy's voice softens, making it somehow sharper. "Your mother did not ask for grand gestures. She asked for safety, for kindness, for the comfort of not being abandoned in the dark." His eyes close, and a tear slips down his cheek, the kind that comes not from sadness but from recognition. The mother speaks next, her voice quiet but unwavering. "I did not want to take anything from him," she says. "I wanted him to feel supported, not burdened. I wanted to be loved." Her words land like soft blows, gentle but devastating. The son turns toward her, his voice barely intact. I'm sorry," he whispers. "I was overwhelmed. I let my frustration turn into cruelty. I did not mean to hurt you. I was wrong." The gallery is silent, watching a man finally dismantle the armor he clung to for years. Judy nods slightly, acknowledging the apology without letting it absolve him. Growth begins with truth, she says. But truth alone is not enough. You must change your behavior, because your mother deserves better than a son who only understands her value when he is facing consequences. He nods, wiping his face, his shame now front-facing, no longer hidden behind excuses. Judy turns to Melissa. You bear responsibility too, she says. But you showed integrity by coming forward. That counts for something. Melissa nods gratefully, though tears spill down her cheeks anyway. The mother inhales tremblingly, not shattered, but stronger somehow, for having finally spoken her truth aloud. Judy straightens the documents before her. I am ready to rule, she says. But before I do, there is something important I want both of you to hear. She closes the file with deliberate calm. Because what comes next, she says, is not just a verdict. It is a lesson neither of you will forget. The courtroom leans in without meaning to, not because a verdict is coming, but because everyone senses Judge Judy is about to speak from a place deeper than the bench. Judge Judy closes the file gently, almost reverently, as though the story within it deserves respect, even if the actions it contains do not. Her eyes lift slowly, steadying on the son first, not with anger, but with a piercing, measured disappointment that seems to reach past the surface and into the history behind his behavior. When I look at you, she begins, voice low and deliberate, I do not see a monster. I see a man who thought avoiding responsibility was easier than living with compassion. The son's chin trembles. He looks down, the shame now a visible weight pressing into his spine. But easier, she continues, is not the same as right, and it is certainly not the same as just. She shifts her attention to the mother, whose face tilts toward the sound with the gentle, instinctive openness of someone who has spent a lifetime navigating the world by tone alone. You are a patient woman, Judy says, a forgiving woman, a woman who deserved far better treatment than what you received. The mother's lips tighten, her breath hitching in a silent acknowledgement of pain finally being honored. Judy turns back to the son. You forgot something essential, she says. You forgot that elderly people do not become children. They become treasures. They carry stories, memories, wisdom. And when life takes something from them, vision, mobility, independence, it becomes our privilege, not our burden, to step in and carry what they can't. Her words land like slow, precise blows, not violent, but transformative. The son wipes his eyes, trying to steady himself. You treated your mother's vulnerability as though it were an inconvenience, Judy goes on. You wielded her disability as a justification for cruelty instead of using your ability as an opportunity for compassion. Melissa looks down, tears slipping onto clasped hands. Even the bailiff's stern posture softens a fraction, the moral gravity of the room undeniable. And let me tell you something important, Judy says, leaning forward. In my courtroom, we do not measure a person by how they treat those above them. We measure them by how they treat those who depend on them. The son's breath shudders, a sound caught between sorrow and realization. Judy's voice lowers, intentionally slower, as though ensuring each word sinks deep enough to leave an imprint that cannot fade. You wanted freedom. But freedom built on the suffering of someone who once carried you in her arms is not freedom at all. It is cowardice. A ripple of emotion moves through the gallery, heads bowing, eyes misting. The mother's hand clutches her cane, but her face lifts with a quiet dignity that lights the space around her. For the first time today, she looks taller. Judy straightens the papers before her, the final shift in tone signaling the approach of justice. I am ready to rule, she says, but make no mistake, this ruling is not the end of your lesson. It is merely where the truth stops giving you chances. She lifts the file. Here is how this ends. The room holds its breath, suspended on the edge of consequences, long overdue. The gavel rests in Judge Judy's hand, but she doesn't lift it yet. Instead, she studies the son, really studies him, as if weighing not just a ruling, but the man he will choose to become after today, The son sits trembling, his shoulders rounded inward, grief and shame settling over him like a heavy winter coat. His earlier smugness is gone. His arrogance is gone. What remains is a man seeing himself clearly for the first time and barely able to withstand the sight. Judge Judy inhales slowly, grounding the courtroom with a calm that feels sacred. "This," she says, tapping the file gently, "is not only a case, it is a reminder that justice does not arrive when we want it, but when we need it." She turns to the mother. "Ma'am, you will receive full reimbursement for the nights you were displaced. You will be compensated for the emotional and logistical harm done to you. And all of your belongings, every picture, every keepsake, every piece of your life, will be returned in the condition they were taken." The mother nods, lips quivering. "Thank you," she whispers, voice thin but steady. It is not triumph. It is not victory. It is relief, long overdue and hard won. Judy then shifts her attention back to the son, whose eyes have finally lifted, though they shine with humiliation and a fragile desperation for forgiveness. "You," she says, "will pay for the storage costs, the replacement of anything missing or discarded, and the full value of what you attempted to take from her. This is non-negotiable." He nods, not arguing, not daring to. His voice is barely audible. "I understand." "No," Judy replies softly. "You are beginning to understand, but you are not finished yet." She sets the file aside and folds her hands. "You redirected her mail. You manipulated her accounts. You asserted control in a way that crossed legal and ethical boundaries. For that reason, I am referring portions of this case to Adult Protective Services. Your conduct requires oversight." The son inhales sharply, not in anger, but in fear. Not of punishment, but of the truth finally being named. The mother reaches for her cane, grounding herself. She does not smile. She does not glance toward him. Her silence is the boundary she has waited years to draw. Judge Judy softens her tone, not for him, but for the dignity of the moment. "Listen to me," she says. "You are not beyond redemption. But redemption does not come from apologies alone. It comes from change. Consistent, difficult change. Your mother deserved loyalty. You gave her neglect. If you want any relationship with her after today, you will earn it, not demand it." The son's tears break free, quiet and uncontrolled. "Mom," he whispers. But she does not answer. The space between them is